Good morning, guys. My name is Aaron Pretzer from Shaolin Kempo Premier. So, recently we had a request to teach something along the lines of women's self-defense for our videos. While I understand where she was going with it, it's a great idea, but it's not at the same time. To give you specific techniques to work with, just wouldn't be a practical use since there's so much that you just can't see in video that doesn't translate very well. Your best bet, get into a qualified instructor wherever you are. If you're close to here, if you're near Coopersville in western part of Michigan, come on in. We'll show you what's what and get you rocking and rolling. But what I would like to do, as I was thinking, what might be a good substitute for that. A better thing to do would be to give you the tools of the trade to work with. That way you're not out there getting hurt, giving you overconfidence in your skill that you haven't acquired yet because you haven't worked with a qualified instructor. So, that being said, today we're going to work with our hands as our primary weapons. You think your natural weapons are going to be hands and elbows for up top, anything roughly above the waist. Just think of the proximity to your target when you're deciding what strikes to use and where. Below the belt, your legs are much closer to your target. So it's going to be much quicker, much harder to block. But if you're going, there are some specialized strikes that we may use for given situations that you might get into something a little bit hairy. But we're not going to work with that quite today. We're going to focus on what's going on up top because it's a little bit easier to understand, I think, than some of the bottom half. Not only that, it's a little more practical than kicks. I say that because they're faster, generally speaking. A faster thing. With kicks, you're having to move bigger muscles, which is going to take a little bit longer of a time to get to where it needs to go. Which is why we use them predominantly below the waist. We talk about kick as if you are training to kick someone in the head, but in guerrilla combat, never kick above the waist in general. There's exceptions to that rule, obviously, but we'll get to that later when we talk about kicks. Today, I want to focus on hands. Okay, so there's so many different ways to form your hand to deliver that strike that you want, and it's going to depend on where you want to strike. Is it a hard target? Is it a soft target? Is it a awkward target to get to? So, first off, we're going to talk about our fists, okay? For ladies, I'm going to say this isn't going to be your go-to. It's not my go-to. I can use it. I know how to use it. But if you don't know how to use it real well, it may not deliver the power that you really want, specifically talking about women, because generally your attacker is going to be larger and stronger than you, at least physically. So that may not do the damage you want to do. It may not have that impact that you want unless you have your targeting right on, or you just get so good with it. Practice with it. But it's not, I'm going to say it's probably not going to be the one you want to have as your go-to. Okay? Now, first of all, there's a few issues we see common with fisted strikes. Okay? First of all, you see that? Make sure your thumb is always on the outside, curled up against your knuckles. Sometimes we see that. Bad news. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. You're gonna break stuff, okay? And the second biggest thing I usually see is an alignment issue. You don't want your fist to cock up or cock down. Because if you make contact with it cocked down especially, you're gonna break your wrist. It's not gonna, it doesn't have that power behind it that you normally would get, okay? So especially for a punch coming in straight, you really want it straight on, lined up with these two, with your first two knuckles lined up with your arm, okay? So that being said, whether you're delivering more of a back fist or a hammer strike of some sort, or you know, it can go in almost any direction you want, which is nice, because it can get to different levels rather quickly and pretty efficiently. So that's gonna be your fisted strike. What I'm gonna recommend a little bit more, especially if you're going to a face, is gonna be a palm. Any kind of palm strike is gonna be really, really nice, because it doesn't matter how strong they are. If you're going in with a palm, you know, maybe to the face, come in, you know, you hit them in the face and you drop, and you can get a rib down here, whatever. It's a really, really nice, versatile strike that you can deliver almost anywhere, and you're not gonna have to worry about how hard that target is. Like, I wouldn't use generally a fisted strike to a skull. Certain spots, yes, but your skull in general is designed to protect your brain. Obviously, it should be. So it's gonna be hard. It's like kind of trying to punch a coconut. Can you imagine that? That's gonna hurt you just as much as them. So let's not do that, all right? But what you can do is a palm. It's gonna deliver just as much power into that strike, no matter what size you are, and hit some pretty sensitive areas that are gonna stop what's going on pretty quickly. All right, so a palm to a face will work brilliantly, whether that's coming in as a straight palm or kind of a sideward. You hit the side of the face is nice. One big tip that we're gonna talk about with this is make sure your fingers are pulled back and you're hitting with the actual palm of your hand, not your fingers. Fingers break really easily, so let's not break them. Master of mine used to say, you break the fingers, you break their spirit. It works the other way around too, so be careful with it. It's something to play with. Definitely a very, very powerful strike that's very, very versatile. Like I said, it can go almost anywhere. Good targets, like I said, face, turn it to the side, ribs, and do it right where your rib cage meets. Push them back a little bit ways. You can even drop and do a groin strike with it. It's a little bit harder to get to sometimes, but if you can get to it, I don't care how big you are, how strong you are, how aggressive you are. You get hit in the groin, you're dropping pretty quick. I think any guy out there who's been hit in the groin can attest to that. Whether on purpose or accident, it hurts. Okay, so we got a fisted strike. We got more of an open-handed palm to work with. That way you get a little bit of everything. And I'll do one more thing, okay? Because we have, you know, upwards of probably 50 plus just hand strikes. So I don't want to go through all of them. That would be way too much information for you, and you wouldn't get through it anyway. I just want to give you a little bit of something to work with, a little bit of something to think about. That way, if you get into a situation where you need it, which I hope you don't, I always hope you don't, but if you need it, you have it readily available to you, as opposed to trying to think through a specific technique. That technique, come on in and we'll teach you that technique. We'll teach you more specialized hand strikes that are going to get you what you want. But we're not going to go through all of them today. That's just crazy. All right, so it's said that there are certain points on the body that, as we talk about chi, you're bringing an energy to that spot to protect it. That's the whole idea behind it. And awareness. That way you're kind of ready for the strike. As I've said, a strike you cannot see coming, not only is it almost impossible to block, it's going to hurt more because you didn't expect it. All right. But that being said, what I was trying to get to is that there's certain points on the body that you cannot channel your chi to. Okay. Now, two of them I'm going to point out to you specifically are going to be your eyeballs, your eye sockets. It's not going to happen, guys. Sorry. No matter what rank you are, no matter how big you are, that's going to hurt. That's going to drop you. If you can't see, you can't fight. If you can't breathe, you can't fight. If you can't stand, well, maybe kind of if you're really good at ground stuff, but you can't fight, basically. It limits you. So, think of your fingers, right? They're going to go right into that eye socket, okay? And I like to hook them. Don't actually do this to people unless they're attacking you, obviously. We don't practice this with our friends, but if you do that, hook them, or you can go in and push downward. That's real nasty, but you can do the same thing with this little pocket in your neck right here, right? Just above your rib cage and your collarbone here where it meets. It's a little pocket. If you dig in there, you can feel it. Stick a finger in there and press down. Even on yourself, you can feel it working. But imagine that someone who's not expecting that. Get a finger in there and drop them right to the ground. That's a little bit more of a specialized strike, but it's just an introduction to using your fingers. Now be careful with your fingers. Like I said, fingers can be broken. Okay, so be very, very careful. If you choose to use your fingers, that's a little bit more of a specialized thing to do if you're in close and you need a little bit of space really quickly. Give them a little bit of a jab in there. But it's not something I'm going to do from a distance. For one, they can see what I'm doing and grab my fingers and break them. Break their fingers, break their spirit. Fight could be very well over and not on the way you wanted it to end. So, and one last thing, since we just started talking about being in close, the different stages of fighting. If you're in close, right, you're in close, it's really hard to get in powerful strikes with your hands because you just can't get them in there very well. All right? So, one option is elbows, right? An elbow, that's a really, really hard part of your body that a lot of people just don't think about, right? You're in close and maybe you're getting in there and bam, deliver just that little jab of an elbow. No matter which direction it's coming from, it's gonna hurt, okay? So that's something to play with, all right? So you're here, upward, downward. Basically any direction that you can think of, an elbow can travel, all right? So that's it for today. Those are your natural weapons up top. All right, so next time we'll take a peek at what's going on down below the belt. All right, so enjoy that. play around with it, get you familiar with it. Think of it as a tool, the tools of the trade, because it really is. If you think about it like, you know, hammers and screwdrivers and, you know, whatever else, other tools you choose that you need to do whatever job you're going to do. The better you know those tools, the more tools you know how to use, the bigger project you can do. You get into these tools that are specific to a certain job or a certain type of job. You may not use those quite as much, but it's good to have them around. So if you think of it in that way, if that helps you, whatever connection you need to make in order for those to be readily available to you, do that. All right, so we talked about fists and the problems with that. Palms are a great tool. You know, what else did we cover? Fingers, if you know how to use them, if you're very careful not to get grabbed with them or hit something that you weren't intending to hit, that's another big issue. You missed your eye and it, you know, could potentially break something, but it's a great tool to know, use, knowing how to use it. And then we talked about elbows. So those are, I think, 4 very good tools. They'll get you started. Play around with them, get familiar with them, familiarize yourself with your own body, because that's really what this is learning how to use your body in a different way. All right, so thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Have a great week.